Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
All right, let's crack open something really practical today. We've got this source material here. It's an article, and it's focused on, well, one of the most common home improvement questions, maybe one of the most perplexing ones. How much should a 10 by 10 kitchen remodel actually cost?
Yeah, that 10 by 10 size, it's such a cornerstone in the remodeling world, isn't it? It really gives everyone a kind of universal baseline.
Right.
It helps make sense of projects that can seem, wildly different. And it lets you compare apples to apples a bit more when you're getting quotes or just looking at material costs.
Exactly. It's like the standard unit of measurement for kitchen reno budgeting. So our mission here in this deep dive is to pull out the absolute key insights from this source material. We want to help you, our listener, feel informed, confident, and just clear if a 10 by 10 kitchen remodel is something you might be thinking about. Think of this as your essential shortcut, maybe, to navigating all those numbers. So let's unpack this right away. What is a 10 by 10 kitchen in remodeling terms? And why has this specific size become such a useful benchmark?
Okay, so at its core, a 10 by 10 kitchen, it just refers to a 100 square foot space. Simple as that. It's often kind of rectangular, maybe roughly 10 feet by 10 feet, but the key thing is really the square footage.
Okay.
And the reason it's the go-to standard is, well, it provides a consistent framework for estimating costs. Designers, contractors, they can use it to figure out typical material amounts, like how much cabinetry you'll need, countertop, flooring, that sort of thing. It helps estimate that.
Yeah.
And it also gives a pretty solid starting point for labor estimates, too. So even if your kitchen is, say, 12 by 15, understanding the cost for a standard 10 by 10 gives you a figure you can kind of relate to and then scale up or down from there.
Okay. So it's less about the exact shape of your kitchen and more about having this consistent unit for comparing things and budgeting. Got it. So based on the source then, what's the general cost range we're talking about for this standard 10 by 10 size?
Well, the article suggests that most 10 by 10 kitchen remodels, they typically range from maybe $15,000 on the lower end up to about $45,000, sometimes even higher. It really highlights that, this isn't a one-size-fits-all cost, not at all. Like a basic refresh, yeah, that'll be on the lower end. But as you start moving into more significant upgrades, think new appliances, better materials, maybe even changing the layout, the cost naturally goes up.
Makes sense.
The key insight here, I think, is that while the price increases, so does the potential for a really refined, functional, and, personalized space. So the higher the investment, usually, the greater the transformation, both in how it looks and how well the kitchen actually works for you day to day.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, because the source doesn't just give us that big range. It actually breaks down what you might expect within that range. It outlines 3 common tiers of remodeling. And I think this is super helpful for figuring out where your own project might fit in.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through those?
Absolutely. Yeah, thinking in tiers really helps clarify your goals and manage expectations based on what you want to spend. So first up, you have the budget remodel. This typically falls in that $10,000 to $15,000 range. The main focus here is really maximizing impact, but without major structural changes. So you're probably keeping your existing cabinet boxes, right? But maybe painting them or refacing the doors. Affordable, readily available finishes are key. Think laminate countertops, maybe a standard tile backsplash, replacing light fixtures, maybe updating appliances but sticking with more budget-friendly models.
Right, the basics.
Exactly. And a crucial cost-saving thing at this level, keeping the original kitchen layout exactly the same, no changes.
Okay. Why is that so important for cost?
Well, it means no moving plumbing for sinks or dishwashers, no moving gas lines for stoves, no rerouting electrical. Moving those core utilities requires expensive, specialized trades, plumbers, electricians, and it often means opening up walls or floors.
Which sounds messy and expensive.
Precisely. Avoiding that keeps labor costs way down and the whole construction time shorter.
So the budget tier is basically smart updates, cosmetic mostly, keeping the bones of the kitchen intact to avoid big costs and disruption.
Exactly right. It's more about a cosmetic and functional refresh within the existing footprint. Then you step up to the mid-range remodel. This is usually priced from maybe $25,000 up to $50,000.
Okay, quite a jump.
It is. And this is where you start seeing more significant material upgrades and you get some flexibility in the layout potentially. You're likely getting completely new cabinetry here, often what's called semi-custom.
The semi-custom, what's the difference?
So semi-custom cabinets are built in standard sizes, like stock cabinets, but they offer a much wider range of door styles, finishes, and interior options. Think pull-out drawers, special organizers, that kind of thing. Way more choice than basic off-the-shelf stock cabinets.
Ah, okay. More personalized.
Right. It gives you a more personalized look and usually much better storage. You're also looking at things like maybe solid surface countertops or some level 1 natural stone like basic granite, higher quality flooring engineered hardwood, maybe durable tile, and investing in energy efficient appliances. They look better often and can save you on utility bills over time. Yeah. And improved lighting design is common here too. Not just swapping fixtures, but maybe adding task lighting under cabinets or some accent lighting. It's really about balancing, enhanced style with genuinely improved everyday convenience and function.
That mid-range sounds like where you get a really tangible upgrade. You feel it in how it looks and how you use it.
It absolutely is. It's a very popular tier for that reason. And finally, there's the high-end remodel. Source puts this at $50,000, going up to $75,000, and sometimes well beyond that.
Wow.
Yeah. This is where you have pretty much maximum creative freedom and all the premium features. We're talking custom cabinets here, built specifically to fit every single inch of your space with any feature you can basically dream up. Exotic woods, unique finishes, totally bespoke storage solutions.
Right.
Countertops are typically premium natural stone, think Carrara marble, high-end quartz varieties. Appliances are often professional grade, maybe with advanced features like steam ovens or induction cooktops and integrated panels so they just blend right in with the cabinetry.
Seamless look.
Exactly. And crucially, this tier often includes a completely redesigned kitchen layout. You might be moving walls, relocating sinks, changing where the oven goes, fundamentally altering the workflow to perfectly suit how you live and cook.
Okay, that's a major difference.
Huge. And the source also points out something important. In major metropolitan areas, the cost for even a standard 10 by 10 high-end remodel, it can sometimes equal or even exceed the cost of remodeling a much larger kitchen somewhere else.
Really? Why is that?
Purely due to higher labor costs, increased demand for those skilled tradespeople, and just the higher price of premium materials and specialized design services in those big city markets.
Wow, okay. The scope difference across those tiers is massive. So, switching gears a tiny bit.
Mm.
What does this all mean for pinning down your specific budget within, whichever tier you're aiming for? What are the absolute key factors the source identifies, the major drivers of cost?
Right. The source breaks the budget down into some common categories, and seeing where the money typically goes is, well, it's incredibly illuminating. First, and consistently the biggest slice of the pie, is kitchen cabinets and storage. This usually eats up a huge chunk, like 30 to 40% of your total budget.
30 to 40%. Wow. Why so much?
Well, cabinets are complex, right? There's the material cost itself, the manufacturing process, especially if you go semi-custom or fully custom, the quality of the finish, and then the quite intricate labor involved in actually installing them properly.
Mhm.
And that choice between stock, semi-custom, or truly custom cabinetry, that's the single biggest cost differentiator right there. Better construction, better finishes. They don't just look nicer. They really improve durability and how well the cabinets actually function over, decades of use.
So basically, deciding on your cabinets up front really sets the tone and the cost for pretty much everything else that follows.
It really, really does. Okay, next up are kitchen countertops. These typically account for maybe 10 to 15% of the budget. The material choice here is paramount, not just for looks, but for performance and, of course, cost. Laminate is your budget-friendly option. Solid surface is kind of mid-range. And then natural stones like granite, quartz, or marble, those are your premium choices.
Right.
And the cost isn't just the slab of material itself. It also includes fabrication, cutting it to size, polishing the edges, making the cutouts for the sink and cooktop, and then the installation, which can be tricky, especially for heavy stone.
Yeah, I bet.
Premium materials cost more because of sourcing, manufacturing complexity, and the skill needed to install them without issues. But they do offer significant long-term value, both in durability and often in resale value, too.
And there's such a major visual component, aren't they? What are the first things you notice?
Absolutely. A huge impact visually. Then we have kitchen appliances, also in that sort of 10 to 15% range.
Oh.
Appliances are obviously about function, but also about integrating into the overall look and feel of the kitchen. Costs vary widely based on the brand. The features, smart tech is big now, steam cooking, induction versus gas the size, and the finish. Stainless steel is still popular, but panel-ready options that match cabinets are big in higher-end designs.
Hmm.
Investing here impacts your daily cooking experience for sure, and it can add significant energy efficiency, which, as we said, saves money over the appliance's lifespan.
Okay, we touched on this when we talked about the tiers, but let's maybe dig a little deeper into layout changes. How big a factor is that?
Right, kitchen layout changes. Yeah, this is often a major cost driver, although the source doesn't give it a specific percentage slice because it's so variable project to project.
Makes sense.
But if you're moving plumbing, say, for a sink or a dishwasher, or rerouting electrical for new outlets or appliance locations, or moving gas lines, you are definitely incurring significant labor costs from licensed tradespeople, plumbers, electricians, gas fitters.
Yeah, the specialists.
Exactly. And the work involved in opening up walls or floors to run those new lines, then patching everything back up properly, plus potentially needing permits and inspections from your local authority, it all adds considerable expense and complexity to the job.
But worth it sometimes, I guess.
Well, that's what the source notes. Updating the layout to really tailor the space to your lifestyle, how you actually use your kitchen, it often results in a far better working space that makes the most of your overall investment, even with that added cost up front.
So really thinking hard about workflow and function can justify that extra expense, especially if the original layout just, well, doesn't work for you. What else factors in?
Flooring and lighting are often grouped together. They make up about 10 to 15% of the budget combined, typically. New flooring, whether it's tile, hardwood, luxury vinyl plank, whatever, it impacts both durability and the visual warmth of the space. Costs vary based on the material itself, any subfloor prep needed, and the installation labor. And lighting. Lighting is so crucial. It can elevate the feel and the functionality of the kitchen more than almost anything else for the cost.
Yeah, I agree. Good lighting makes such a difference.
It really does. The source mentions layered lighting. That means having different types. Bright task lighting, maybe under the cabinets for food prep, softer ambient lighting overhead for general illumination, and maybe some accent lighting to highlight specific features like inside glass cabinets or over artwork.
Right. Different moods, different jobs.
Exactly. The cost comes from the fixtures you choose, of course, but also the electrical work needed to create multiple circuits and switches for that control.
Gotcha. And what's the last big piece?
The last big one, and it's significant, is labor and regional pricing. This accounts for a hefty 20 to 30% of the budget.
20 to 30% just for labor and related costs.
Yeah. And this isn't just the general contractor managing the project, it's all the specialized labor we've talked about. The electricians, plumbers, tile setters, cabinet installers, countertop fabricators, painters. The list goes on.
Right.
And these costs vary dramatically by location. It depends on local demand, the general cost of living in your area, and just how busy contractors are at that time.
So seasonality might even play a role.
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
Getting quotes in the off-season might sometimes be slightly advantageous, but the key is investing in skilled, reputable local labor is pretty essential for getting quality results, staying on schedule, and having someone who can effectively problem solve if or when unexpected issues pop up.
Which they often do in renovations.
They often do. And permits, which are usually required for any significant remodel involving plumbing or electrical changes, also fall into this category. There are fees for the permits themselves and the costs associated with inspections to make sure everything's up to code and safe.
So it sounds like location isn't just some high-level factor. It really filters down into the specific cost of getting the actual work done by people in your area.
Absolutely. It's a major variable.
Looking ahead then, what does the source say we can expect for remodel costs? Specifically thinking about, say, 2025.
Well, for 2025, the source notes that the big trends are still leaning towards sustainability, increased efficiency, and more smart tech integration in kitchens. People want eco-friendly materials and appliances that save energy and water, and tech that makes life easier.
Okay, and costs.
In terms of costs, the general expectation mentioned is that material pricing might remain relatively stable, which is, good news.
Definitely.
However, labor costs, they may see a slight rise, particularly in areas where there's high demand for skilled tradespeople. Basic supply and demand.
And they give a kind of per square foot estimate for that 2025 outlook.
Yes, the source suggests budgeting somewhere around $150 to $250 per square foot for a 10 by 10 kitchen remodel in 2025.
Okay, so if it's 100 square feet, that lines up perfectly with that $15,000 to, actually $50,000 to $25,000 range. Wait, $150 is 15K, 250 by 100 is 25K. Is that lower than the earlier range?
Ah, good catch. Let me recheck that earlier range.
It was $15,000 to $45,000. So yes, the 150, 250 Z/Q foot might represent a more common or mid-range expectation for 2025 within that broader possibility. The 15K, 45K range likely covers everything from basic to near high-end, while the per square foot might focus more on the typical mid-range outcome. It still reinforces that you have freedom within whatever your budget is to select finishes and designs based on your vision and, again, your specific area's market pricing.
Right, it's a guideline, not a fixed price.
Exactly. And the advice is still plan ahead. It's really crucial to try and lock in costs, make sure materials are available when needed, and avoid potential delays no matter what year you're doing the project.
It seems pretty clear from all this that bringing in professionals to help navigate all these variables is, well, almost essential, wouldn't you say? Absolutely. The source strongly implies that experienced professionals, whether that's a kitchen designer, a good general contractor, or maybe both, are just invaluable. They help keep your project on track. They manage the timeline. They help align the actual costs with your vision and budget. They guide you on material selections, coordinate all those different tradespeople.
Conductor of the orchestra.
Kinda, yeah. And they can also help answer your specific cost questions, explaining why certain things cost what they do in your local market. Basically, they help translate your dream kitchen into a realistic plan and budget.
Okay, so to really solidify how all these pieces fit together, the force provides a sample percentage breakdown. Like, where does the money typically go in a standard-sized kitchen remodel budget? Let's unpack that final breakdown.
Yeah, this breakdown is a fantastic visual guide. It really shows where your money is likely to be allocated. So cabinets, as we said, the biggest chunk, 30 to 40%.
Right.
Countertops and the backsplash together, usually 10 to 15%.
Right.
Appliances, also 10 to 15%. Flooring and lighting combined, again, about 10 to 15%.
Seems like several things fall in that 10-15% bucket.
They do. They're significant, but usually less than cabinets or labor, because labor and permits, as we discussed, that's a really significant portion, 20 to 30%.
Yeah, that's big.
And crucially, don't forget this. Make sure to set aside about 5 to 10% for contingency and any design fees.
Ah, the contingency fund. That's critical, isn't it? For those lovely surprises you find when you open up walls in older homes.
Exactly. Hidden plumbing problems, maybe some outdated electrical wiring, things you just can't see until the demolition starts. That 5 to 10% contingency is your buffer. It's your safety net for the unforeseen.
Peace of mind money.
Pretty much. And design fees, well, sometimes they're absorbed into a contractor's overall fee, but they represent the value of that professional planning that can actually save you from making costly mistakes down the line. So understanding how your total budget aligns, roughly, with these typical categories, it just helps keep your plan efficient, transparent, and helps you make informed choices about where you might need to save versus where you really want to splurge to meet your goals.
So remodeling a 10 by 10 kitchen, even though it's this kind of standard industry size, it's clearly a project with just tremendous potential. It can really impact your daily life, combine function and style, and add significant long-term value to your home. But the ultimate outcome, it really does seem to hinge on that thoughtful planning, digging into the layout possibilities, understanding all those material choices, and yeah, bringing in the right expertise seems key.
That's spot on. A 10 by 10 remodel offers surprising flexibility within that standard framework. You have so many options across those different tiers we talked about to create a space that not only fits your budget, but truly suits your vision and, importantly, how you actually live in your home. The success and the satisfaction you get from the finished remodel, it's really a direct result of those conscious choices you make all along the way.
And that brings us to a final thought, something for you, our listener, to maybe mull over long after this deep dive ends. Given that cabinets dot labor, including those permits, and countertops backsplash, they potentially make up such a dominant portion of the budget, maybe 60% to even 85% combined, according to that breakdown. How might really focusing on and prioritizing your decisions in those key areas right up front, how might that fundamentally influence all the rest of your remodel choices, maybe streamline your whole project, and ultimately impact your overall satisfaction with a finished kitchen? Something to think about.